The 6 to 7 Figure Show, episode 48. Let's hit it.
Broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun outside Phoenix, Arizona. This is the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Tired of working so hard and having no time? Take your six-figure practice and turn it to a thriving seven-figure enterprise. And now, your host, author, speaker, mentor, and strategist, Frank Bria.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I'm your host, Frank Bria, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Elizabeth Berry, who is a performance coach and excellent business advisor. Her expertise is kind communication and compassionate leadership. She's a marketing expert, author, podcast host, 17 times TEDx curator. She's a force to be reckoned with in terms of communicating, speaking, and listening. And really, you listen to her today and you love what's next for you. Elizabeth, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. And it's really nice to meet your audience. How you doing, guys?
Yeah. And I think that this is going to be a fun conversation because I want to, one of the things that your brand is about this idea of communication, and in particular, kind communication, which, you think about it, it's like that should be obvious. But in this day and age, there's so much discussion about authenticity and saying it, like, speaking straight, and all this kind of stuff. Like, are these two things incompatible? Have we lost this connection to just being kind human beings?
It's a great question. And I get that a lot when I go to speak and I get up there or right before I speak. I think they know this. And then I get on the stage and everyone's leaned in and they're all going like this and people are wiping their tears and I get people to cry, and it's not like it's lost, but we weren't taught this stuff in school. And The cool thing is that my audience is typically 40s, 50s, and 60s and above, which is great because we all grew up in families that were like, don't tell the neighbors. So it was like, don't ask, don't tell. Everyone does nothing wrong, but yes, we do. So, we kind of grew up like this, and it's really just become such a wonderful conversation starter and just an opportunity for all of us to kind of let ourselves go, become more vulnerable, and be open to this sort of uncomfortable topic.
Yeah. And I wonder if there isn't a bit of hesitation from some people that say, what's the old adage, good guys always fail, good guys are the losers, or the same thing I guess could be said of women. You have to sort of be in this very power position in order to make up for sort of the glass ceiling and all this other kind of stuff. You've got to be sort of a different kind of woman. Is that just all BS, or how do we get around that to land in this place of kindness?
I love it. It's the old adage is there, but it's kind of like power versus force versus empowerment, right? We all think we have to demand something, but if you're a leader on a team or you're leading employees, if you're demanding things, people are turned off. I mean, we're living in almost 2020 right now. If you're pissing someone off, they're walking out the door, right? So you have to either learn this stuff or you're going to learn the hard way. So the idea is to empower, and kind communication is not about being nice. Okay, it's about having compassionate, empathetic leadership, soft skills, so that you have an approach. The great Maya Angelou said, it's not what you say. They won't remember what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And my work, when given to business expositions, it trickles down into our love lives and into our families. And when given in a love life situation, it trickles up to our businesses. So it's really about approach. It's about phraseology, getting out of your head, getting out of your ego, and speaking from the heart. And that is not BS. And all the memes that are going out on social media, vulnerability, all of this, boo, boo, boo. There's so much depth to each topic that once we start to dive down, we start to say, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that either. And that's where the power comes to actually get better as a happier, healthier adult.
That's really fascinating. You said something else that really I want to dig into, that you talked about this trickle down, trickle up right?
Yep.
So if you're kind and compassionate, empathetic in your business, it trickles down in your personal relationships and vice versa. And it's interesting because a lot of people talk about this duality, right? Like they can be this mean, curmudgeonly, powerful business person, but yet be this really kind person in their personal lives. And what I hear you saying is that's probably not as easy as you think it is. These things kind of blend a little bit.
They definitely blend, and I find that a lot of my clients, they say, well, oh my God, thank you for helping me with my marriage, or thank you for helping me. They're actually using the term and the terminology, I was a kind communicator, or I wasn't a kind communicator. And it's kind of become like a funny thing. I get really, really, really funny texts a lot from my readers, my podcast fans, and just people in general that I speak to, because it is an interesting topic and we don't want to talk about it because it is uncomfortable. And the reason I'm talking about it is because I was the uncomfortable one. I grew up in the Irish family where no one spoke to each other. And then I went out to UMass, smoked a ton of pot, came back, and I was like, wow, everyone's so stressed out. And then I built a marketing agency, and I launched over 100 brands, launched over 100 speakers to the TEDx stage, curated 17 TEDx events, coached the best coaches that were like, who do you think I am? I don't need coaching. And then after the first session, they were the first ones to say, when is the next session? So it's this type of, I was there too. We're all experts at what we do, but these are just healthy reminders for us to shush, be brief, be kind, and as a result, we live happier, healthier lives, because the time is now, my friends. We don't know if the sun's going to come up tomorrow and the next day, and but we don't know if we will.
Yeah.
So how do you want to be remembered? You want to be the asshole, or do you want to be the empathetic person that people look up to? And that's really what it comes down to, is just being an awesome person.
Yeah, and what I hear you basically saying is you don't have to substitute, you don't have to basically give up strength in order to be empathetic, that there is power and strength and leadership in being an empathetic and kind communicator.
Yeah, and for the men listening out there, one of the most fascinating things is I get men saying, wait a minute, I needed you like 20 years ago. Or, I love getting to work with men, because in even the strongest women, I help really strong women don't come off as a bitch. And then I help really strong men come off as more empathetic. But at the end of the day, they both want to. They just don't have the tools. We don't have the tools. No one gave us the tools. And then they throw us in a business environment, and it's deadline oriented. There's a ton of stuff going on, and there's people with complex personalities, and we're not one size fits all. Someone's a needs-based person, someone's a solutions-based person, high level versus detail-oriented, and everything just gets mucked up, and then the fingers get pointed.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I teach my clients and my audience is to take their finger and just, every day you are responsible, accountable, and marrying decisions with your actions and putting them together and taking a stand for your self-worth. That's when you start to realize the power in this speaking directly yet kindly methodology. It's really powerful. And I can tell you right now, at 41 years old, because of the work, because of the books that I've been putting out and the coaching that I've been doing, I'm the most powerful and happiest person I ever was in my life, because of my own work. So if you're out there and you're not happy, or you're trying to speak something and stuck in here, let's work together, because I'm so happy. And I might be an oversharer, but damn, it feels good to get it out.
No, that's great. That's terrific. And I want to pivot a little bit here, because one of the things that you're kind of known for is also your marketing expertise, a brand builder. You're a brand builder essentially around this. So where does the empathetic, the kind communication, the leadership, how does that play into growth, brand building, and essentially growing a business? How does that come into play?
Well, it comes into play with the connection that you have with your client. So I started figuring this out a long time ago. When I'm working with clients that aren't able to change easily, and you're creating a whole new website for someone. You take their entire brand and you're like, here you go, and it's all fresh and new, and they're like, oh my God, I don't know, I mean, it's so beautiful, but how can I change? I've been this way for 15 years. Yeah. And they might not come off as nice as they wish to be, and there could be like a little bit of a batting of a head. And I started learning this, and the empathetic and compassion really comes into every single conversation that we had. Conversations are the lifeblood of business. And if we're not having them, I gave this analogy the other day in a Facebook Live that I did where, when you talk to your dog, your cat, you have such a nice voice. If we can actually practice that within people, it really does help, because we need these tricks. We need these tricks. So in brand building or sales, marketing, corporate leadership, if you can just, I have a friend in the background. Thank you. Thank you. If we can just take our voices down, pause, breathe. My two things are breathe and smile. We can really build better brands, and scalability comes with relationships. Yeah. It's not just the brand itself. Like the logo can be the logo, but your relationship to someone is how you show up.
Yeah, in my experience, it comes down to helping your client transform. And what I hear you saying is that your power in empathetic and kind communication creates transformation, and that, well, facilitates it, I guess, facilitates transformation, where if for some reason you can't connect, or you're not really vibing on that level with your client, you can do all the work, but it'll either get thrown out, or it won't be respected, or it won't create the change that your client desperately needs.
Yes, I call it real-time transformation, real-time apologies. When you practice this work, right? Because awareness is nothing without action. Action is nothing without practice. You have to do that. And that's why the consulting that I do, it's consistent. My clients don't go away. They're here for over a year. They value that hour to vent and learn. And, there's power in listening to how we speak, and then listening to how we present ourselves and how others perceive us. So there's really an opportunity for all of us to just slow down, make real-time transformation, and say, hey, wait a minute, I didn't mean to say that way, because that takes courage. Most of us are hiding behind the fear of ego to say, I made a mistake. And you got to respect the fear. And when you respect the fear, mistakes come easily, and you can make those real-time transformations to say, you know what? I didn't mean to say it that way. Or you can do it the next day and call someone up. It's that courage that is living within us. And, talk about adages. They say, oh, people don't change. Listen, if you show up wanting to do the work, I am living proof. I changed. I was a reactor. I call them reactoids now. Just because like no one wants, if you're not going to have fun with your personal transformation, you're just screwed. But I was a reactor. I used to throw my hands up. I used to yell. I'm the daughter of an Irishman. Nobody really had that sort of like real communication. So I had to learn it myself and go through the muck and go through the hot sweating of, geez, I messed up and I messed up and I messed up. And I created my own methodologies and programs and courses to help people do what I did. And I'm proud of the work.
That's really, I think that's such it sounds, on the surface, it sounds like, well, of course, this is what we should be doing. But if you think about so much business and communication now, all of the time and energy that's spent into calculating an apology, and you're talking about that real time, there's no calculation done. It's not like you have to go back and figure out what the cost of apology or how to phrase it. It's just straight up in the moment. Wait a minute. I think I might have said that differently than I meant it. It should be the way that we live, but it's just fundamentally not how we operate as businesses.
It's like an image of butterflies just coming out of your chest. because the opposite image is like Atlas, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders because you're suffering on purpose, my friend.
That's true. That's true. I want to pivot again to talk about the work that you do, how this work happens as you're coaching, as you're working with, because you have quite a big audience, and you're working with, you've done some events and retreats and things like that. How, one, I guess, question that people might have for you if they're listening is, how do you execute that kind of personal transformation at scale? How do you work with multiple people? Because it sounds like kind of an intimate, personal journey that you're taking people on.
It is, and that's a great question. So what I've done in my transformation from marketing agency to business advisor in this methodology with communication and vulnerability, I have a few core clients that have hired me. They called me up. They found me online and they were like, "I'm hiring you." I didn't have to pitch anybody, which has been great. But also there was one of them specifically that came from like a $5 million agency, a startup. And they were growing significantly. And I was coaching one of the top managers and then his teams. So the way that I've been working is I'm really looking for companies that are looking to scale, because you can't go out there and scale. You can't build a business unless your team is happy. If there's not consistent solidarity between the communication, if there's no foundation, it's going to break. No foundation, it's going to break, and it's going to continue to break. And most of the leaders out there that are stubborn or want to say, "There's nothing wrong with my company, there's nothing wrong with my brand, I don't see anything," and then they just see it keep breaking. It's like the hamster in the wheel. So I'm looking for, and I work with companies who get it, companies who want to say, "You know what? I'm investing 20 grand, 30 grand from my marketing budget or my sales budget or my whatever budget it can be to the health and happiness of my employees so that they can communicate." Because I looked at numbers this morning from a latest review where profits go skyrocketing when people are engaged in the office. And it's like a new trend, right? Health is a new wealth. And so I'm looking for companies that want to reach out to me. I don't come in with a program. They're not going to get books. It's not like I don't come in a suit. I come in as like the Wendy Rhodes. I'm the real deal. I can work with their managers and then their teams and then the top CEOs if they wish, if they're humble enough. Many of them are not yet. Some of them are. And then I do 6 to 12 month programs and they get the results. And then once I can come in and do talks once a month, and then they can give me the specific people that they want me to coach behind the scenes. Now, once that scales and they see the growth, they add on. They add on, and then it grows from there. And that's where the benefit is.
That's great. And
yeah,
it feels like there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs that confuse the issues that they have in the office with other things. In other words, they've got a team problem, they've got a communication problem, but they might mistakenly think it's a process problem or a marketing problem or a sales training problem or something, but it's really a team problem. Are there a couple of sort of guidelines where people can go, "Oh yeah, it's my people." That's not working well. Are there sort of signs that it really is about the team and the morale?
Well, I call it toxic telephone. So, if there's this girl crying this week and she's crying the next week, and then they're all talking about Susie and they're not at their desks, and then it continues, and then you're firing this manager this week, and then you bring another one on. I mean, that's really a sure sign that it's not just the process. It really is a connection between people. A lot of times what I'm seeing is I get people hiring me underneath their CEOs, and this stuff is happening, but the CEO turns a blind eye to it in those startups, in those entrepreneurial places. And my message to anyone out there is, it is not your fault. You're not a mistake. This is actually an opportunity for you to take a stand for your self-worth, for the self-worth of your employees, and really knock it out of the park in 2020.
You know, it's really fascinating. There seems to be this push now in smaller businesses and startups around leadership, but I don't know that it quite has found its home yet. In other words, I still think there's a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs that sort of feel like leadership should be a natural thing for them. Like they should have been born with it, and they don't quite understand that in the Fortune 500 space and in larger corporations, that people spend a lot of time in leadership training. They learn these skills, and it's not inborn in them. And I do think that, you know, especially the newer entrepreneurs and startup where maybe they came out of corporate and they're feeling like, well, I just don't have it, or it's not in me, but they don't really know that this is something they need to learn.
Well, you know, you have great questions, and the answer there is this. What I'm seeing is the leadership. Everyone's like into leadership. They're sharing the quotes. Everyone's sharing it's so easy to share a quote. But the problem with the CEOs or the entrepreneurs out there is that they want to do everything. They think that the term leader is they're going to mentor the employees, and they're going to run the business, and they're going to handle the marketing, and they're going to run the sales. And when you create that, your claws are in it. Your ego claws are in it. And I say, let go and lead, because people need to, like, it goes back to the power versus empower. And when you have your claws in, it creates a fear-based leadership methodology. And if you have such a tight hold on everything, if you bring your bird wings around everything, there's really no room for anyone to breathe. And you think you can do it all. And sometimes you're the one causing the problem of all the people breaking down, because you're changing things too much. I mean, I see it all the time. And my message to leaders out there who are humble enough to say, oh, that it's okay. We've all been there. As an entrepreneur myself, when I first started, I didn't want to delegate anything. It's so hard to say you do it, or to know what to give up. But once you start doing it, it's the same thing as speaking clearly and directly. And once you start doing it and you get the results from that, you're like, okay, I'm going to put this into practice because it's giving me a result, and I'm happier because of it. That's the thing. When you actually walk out the door of work and you're happy, that's huge. That's like a nice little profit at the end of the day.
That's like the thing. I mean, yeah. You mentioned this earlier, and I was going to bring this up, but so many surveys, especially millennials and Gen Zers, are saying they would take a pay cut to be happier at work. And that's a newer sort of understanding about the dynamic between leadership and the team. I think the one line that sticks with me now is let go and lead. What a beautiful way to sum that up. It's such a counterintuitive notion, but it's absolutely right. I think you hit the nail on the head. Unfortunately, we're out of time, Elizabeth. I love to continue talking with you about this. I know you're busy. You've got things to do as well. So really appreciate you taking the time. Last question. For those who are listening who felt called to, get this figured out in their lives, and I'm sure there's a lot of the things there that I know in my own communication. It's like, I probably should fix that. What are some ways that people can connect with you? What's sort of the best first step for them if they want to connect with you?
Great, thank you so much. You can visit thekindcommunicator.com. That's my website. It's my consulting website. I'm on Instagram at Elizabeth Barry Leadership. I have over 200 articles on LinkedIn. I have a Beyond Ego Facebook group on Facebook, and I have a business page on Facebook. So I'm out there. I'm sharing fun things. I do lives all the time. And if you are one of these people that is ready for a transformation, it is absolutely possible, and you will be happier and healthier because of it. And I am living proof.
That's amazing. Yeah. And if you're watching the video or you're on the show notes page, we got links here below. You can click on through to Elizabeth's website. If you're out and about listening to this, come on back to the show notes page and you can click on through. But it sounds like Elizabeth's got a great set of articles and things. So LinkedIn for sure. And your lives, are they on Facebook, Elizabeth? Are they Facebook lives?
Instagram. I'm always just like.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You mentioned Instagram as well.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank
Right,
you.
we'll connect with Elizabeth. I think that's great. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I've learned a ton. I'm sure the audience has as well. So thank you again.
Okay.
And thank you, everyone, for being with us on this episode of the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I've been your host, Frank Bria. And hey, I absolutely endorse the movement away from this sort of pseudo power strength into empathetic kindness and communication. I say that more of a lesson to me than probably the audience. But definitely connect with Elizabeth on that if that's an area that you feel like you need some help with. Thanks so much for being with us, and we will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.